And let me share my screen. So first things first, I just want to welcome everyone. Oh, before we start, let me first stop sharing screen. Because this is our first time, let me just show you what I look like. That is me. I don't think we shall meet physically, but yeah, just so that you see who you're talking to. So first things first, I thought let us begin by looking briefly at the course outline. And so it can give us an idea of what we're going to look at. The most important thing we want to look at is some of the most important things. We want to be able to identify a research problem. In this world, there are many problems. You may have a personal problem, you might have a health problem, you may have a business problem, and each differs and it's tackled in a different matter. So research problems also exist, and they are quite different from all these different types of problems. So we will focus on significantly on what a research problem is. We shall then look at the aims we want to try and once a research problem has been identified, then the next situation, the next item on the agenda is what objectives can we set in order to resolve that problem. We then go ahead to select appropriate research methods, appropriate research methods that will help, that can support in fulfilling your aims or objectives. And then look at the data collection techniques, and then also the data analysis techniques. So those are the overall general objectives that we want to look at. Now, of course, for me as a lecturer, I also have an objective. One of the primary objectives is to impart to you, just like any lecture, like you go to a programming lecture, the lecturer hopes that you can pick up a certain level of programming skills. Or if it's network design and maintenance, you should be able to pick up certain skills. So research also is another such a course unit, and it's quite big. That's one. It's a very important part of academics. Anyone who's doing a degree, research is extremely important because it's what turns an ordinary classroom, a class group, into an academic classroom. That's the importance of research. So one of the key points is to emphasize to you the significance of research and to impart research skills on you. So one of the most important things I want to emphasize on is participation and attendance. This will give you an automatic 5 marks. So I urge you, please participate, not only attend, but also participate in the lecture. Let's have as much discussion as possible so that we can truly understand what it is we are trying to do. 2, we shall focus on doing group assignments. Why group assignments? Because it will allow discussion. So in the discussions, of course, research is never done alone. Even if you'll have your individual dissertations at the end of in your 3rd year, but you work closely with your supervisor and probably discuss what you're doing with others. So it's good to start by doing group work. So we shall have our first group assignment, which will look at identification of research components, so that you should be able, if you're given an article, you should be able to pick out some of the research components. The second group assignment will involve you writing a paper, a concept paper, and presenting it and defending it as a group. Then the third will be a quiz. Yeah, so that will be individual. Then your final exam will be a take home. It will be a concept paper that you write and submit on Moodle. So far, are we okay? So far, are we together?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam, we are together.
Okay. So just to divide up the topics, some of these things I need to correct. I misnumbered. I realized it when I was presenting to the morning class. Today we started with the introduction to the course unit. This is what we're doing now. We are going to look at the baseline knowledge of research. Then we shall, at the end of it, I'll give you a reading assignment, and we shall start with a discussion on this reading assignment on a forum discussion on Moodle, and then we shall continue with that in our second lecture next Wednesday. So this is the first item of the fall of next week. Yeah. Then we shall look at the nature and methods of research and the approaches. This will be done via Zoom. Then I'll give you your first assignment, which is identification of research components. So that will be your first assignment. This you will present in the third week. Yeah, so considering there are many groups, there are quite a number of groups, I think that's what we shall do the whole day in the third week. Then we shall come to research problem identification. This is one of the things that is extremely important that we need to discuss at length to understand. And with that, you'll have your second assignment, which is problem identification and formulation, and basically writing your first concept paper as a group, as groups. We shall finish up with these two topics, but I think we may have to split them into 2 weeks. The first will be proposal writing, the third will be data analysis. Then I will set up your assignment quiz, your third assignment. In our final week, we should then be given time to write our final exam, which is a concept paper. Okay? So any questions so far?
No, madam.
Sorry? We're okay?
No, madam. Let's continue.
Okay. Okay, so then let us come to start the lecture. I think you can all see the lecture slides up on your screen. Can you all see?
Yes, we are seeing them.
Okay, so just a brief introduction.
Yes, madam.
Okay. A brief introduction of who I am. My name is Sheba Rusoke Nyakaisiki. I am Mtoro. I live in Fort Portal. I was telling the morning class that I'm a very, very, very old student of UMU. Very old. Yeah. I joined UMU for my bachelor's degree in 1995. Just to give you a bit of history about ICT in UMU, at that time we had one phone booth. At that time mobile phones were non-existent. We had one phone booth that was at the main reception of the Nkozi campus. And computers, in terms of computers, those of us who are doing EDS, that is Ethics and Development Studies, used to use the DOS prompt page. Computers with no mouse, and we're using function keys for everything. So basically that was our life. And basically very little knowledge on ICT. And, but however, from my first job, I got introduced to ICT. So when I went to do my master's, I decided to do a conversion course into computing. And eventually I did my PhD in the field of ICT. So I come from a field of development studies, came to IT, became an IT profession. I really loved the programming part of it. I really enjoyed it. I taught programming in Java and PHP for some time at UMU, and I think also Visual Basics. Then when I became a researcher, now I'm mostly sought out now for research purposes. But yeah, my interests fall from there. So right now in Fort Portal, I am a farmer. Now this is on the side, but I'm a business farmer. So it's also something, a new step that I'm carrying out. So let us see some of the learning outcomes. I've already discussed it a bit extensively, but I just want to ask you a question now on your side. You've heard about research projects in ICT. What have you heard about? What do you know so far from what you've heard from other IT students at your different campuses?
I think this requires us to do a lot of research and get knowledge from different aspects as far as our learning is concerned.
Okay. And anyone else, have you had people talk about it and what they do? Anyone else? Have you heard about research projects in the department? No, you've had nothing? Okay, let's move on. You'll be expected to write a research project in your third year. So one of the significant things you observe when you're looking at specifically research in IT is that some kind of IT solution is expected somewhere in there, which is good. It is not bad at all. It's good. But one of the things you must note of the solution is not, the IT solution is not research. We must understand what a research problem is. And this is a very significant part of this course unit, understanding what a research problem is. We must be able to identify it. Yeah, we must be able to identify it. Let me just quickly ask all of you, I'm sure you're online right now, can you just type in Google and just find out what is a research problem? What does Google say what a research problem is?
A research problem is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, in theory, or practice.
Okay, that is good.
That points.
Sorry. I think he has. Yes, Vicent? Sorry,
yes, that points to the need for the meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation.
Okay, that is
That's what
good.
problem is.
Yeah, so it's a concern that leads to an improvement of knowledge, and normally it comes from scholarly literature. Yeah, scholarly literature. So
Yes.
that is one of the key points that I wanted us to grasp when we look at what a research problem is. It should arise from a research community, a community that is researching about a specific problem. So I'm getting an echo back. Okay. So a significant point to understand in identification of a research problem is that this research problem must exist within a certain research community. It shouldn't be just my problem alone. Take an example. I gave the example that what if I wanted to find out how many students I'm teaching in research methods, bachelor's level? Is that a research problem or is that a personal problem?
I think it is a personal problem.
Yeah, that one is a personal problem. I'm sure the faculty administrator knows how many people are in. I'm sure registries are aware, and even finance should, the registry maybe. The faculty and the registry should be aware, something like that. Now, so the research problem must exist outside of you. You may observe something which leads you to read further and then define it according to a research community. A second point is that it should be significant. Yeah, it should be significant. What do we mean by significant? Why is it important that research question is answered? Why is it important? I was giving an example in the morning class where a colleague, well, when I started doing my PhD, a colleague one time was discussing, and he said that, take an example, if somebody said, we don't know the distance between the Earth and the Moon, and therefore I'm going to undertake a study to find out the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Then the next question someone may ask is, okay, and then you find out, and then so what? What happens? Is there some miscarriage of justice because we don't know the distance between the Earth and the Moon? Why is this problem? Why this research problem? So one of the first things I would like to prepare you for as you do this work is that you're going to do a lot of literature review, because you need to understand your research problem in the context of the research community. That when you're researching, you know the knowledge that you're going to add, the new knowledge that you are going to bring to the table. Now, of course, when I say this may be a bit much for an undergraduate study. One, don't be scared. I'm preparing you not just for bachelor's, but also when you want to do your master's. At bachelor's level, you must remember the most significant thing that they want to see is you design a solution for a specific problem within a context. You can add, you can make your work even better by adding just a little bit more. I can give an example. Let us say an example that was given in the morning class was high school students cannot unable to access their school reports, or maybe even the academic, to trace the academic records, let's say from the time they entered the school to date. Now, somebody may say, someone may say, okay, my objective is to first of all find out the challenge of accessing past records in relation to use of manual systems in Uganda. And the person focuses on that and says, However, the field of IAS proposes using automated or digital systems to improve access. So I'm proposing to build a system for a certain school or 2 schools or more, and I implement it, and then I see if there will be actually an improvement. So in that case, the student is not just, yes, you present a system, but you're not just going to present a system. You may decide to carry out a small study after you implemented from the students to find out, has this improved access to school records? And you may actually find out, no, it hasn't improved, or yes, it has improved. Yeah, you may find, no, it hasn't improved because the school stops you from accessing because you haven't paid your fees or something like that. Or the school just doesn't have the resources to maintain the system. So in that case, you report, yes, you've built the system, but because of other circumstances, that improvement was not seen. Has that example, does it make any sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then we shall look at the aims or objectives of the problem. Once you have identified the research problem, meaning you want to solve it now, then you go about setting objectives. Setting objectives whose intention is to resolve the research problem. So we shall also look at that in detail and see how to develop appropriate aims and objectives. In other cases, also, these objectives can be turned into research questions, which you answer at the end of your data analysis. We shall look at research methods, okay? We are going to look at the definition of research in general. One of the key things to note is that research is scientific, it is systematic and scientific. Therefore, it is important that you understand research methods. These are extremely significant, and it must be visible that you use these methods in your inquiry. We shall look at data collection techniques. These are the tools that you use to actually collect data. For example, when you interview someone, you give out a questionnaire. Those are called data collection tools. They are not research methods. There are many times we mistake the two. They are not research methods, they are data collection tools. Then once data is collected, the next step is analysis. In the morning hours, those whom I had asked to find out about research, they came up with so many things. I remember one of them was to make meaning out of information that has been collected. So once you collect data, you try to make meaning out of it. That is data analysis. Now, these two are interchanged, but the research proposal comes before data analysis. So once you have an identified problem, you have objectives, you have a research method and data collection tools, then you have your research proposal. To finally write your full project, you carry out data analysis and make meaning. So that makes up our full dissertation. Yeah. Okay. I'm also going to ask you now to just go to Google and type in research. What is research? What definitions does Google give us? If you feel shy, you can post your answer in the chat room. Some people can speak out, others are a little bit shy. So you can post something in the chat room, and we just also discuss it a bit.
Research is a systematic investigation into a study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. Anyone else?
Welcome.
Anyone else? Is there anyone else who has found anything? Yes, please, Vincent.
People are shy, maybe.
They're a bit shy, yeah? You know, you guys, you can actually post something in the chat room and we discuss it in detail. But Vincent has given us a good start, that it's first of all systematic. What do we mean by systematic? We can think of anything in terms of a system. A system has components, and these components work together to fulfill a certain objective. So research has components, and those components are quite scientific in nature. They ensure that we are going to tackle something objectively. Yeah, objectively look at something and find a solution for it. We don't use emotions. We try as our level best not to make it subjective. It must be objective. One of the key points about research is that it is very scientific in nature. So it is important, one of the important things, reasons for picking up research is that it improves our understanding of ourselves as human beings, to be logical in thinking and in reasoning. And that's what research does. It helps us to be logical and to look at something objectively and say, this works, this does not work. So that is a significant part of research. So this understanding the systematic element is extremely important, and I will try my level best to emphasize it in our assignments that we are going to do, and ensure that it's visible in your communication, in your writing. Second, it's an inquiry. One is going out to find out something that is relatively unknown. So when we say it's an inquiry, it means that you can't start the research and you already have the answers. It must be something that you're going out to discover. I gave an example in the morning of my research in particular. When I was doing my PhD, I developed a mobile application and implemented it in a rural context. And in that time, I discovered many things about the mobile phone user in the rural area, and specifically also in healthcare. One of the things that was completely new to me was the fact that there is a high level of mobile phone illiteracy in rural areas. When we had our first meeting with the users, these were ordinary community members who provide healthcare support in the villages. And one old man raised his hand and said, for me, where the phone is concerned, I only know how to make a call and to end the call. So you can imagine we were bringing an application that was meant to use the message function on a simple phone, not even a smartphone, on a simple phone. But you find users who don't know how to use it. That was a revelation. Defining, understanding who the rural mobile phone user is. And when you have any system in IT, it is important to understand the users, because the users are part of the system. Here, Henry is saying a study regarding a particular concern or problem using scientific method. Thank you very much, Henry. This is an important point, using scientific methods. So in your writing, the scientific method must appear. It must be very evident. Yeah. So this inquiry we are making is also an investigation, like the same thing, investigation into a specific problem or issue. And this must lead to new or improved knowledge. So I gave you the example of what I discovered about the mobile phone user in a rural community. So if we went back to the example I was giving you about a high school students trying to track their school reports. The system itself may not be the issue, but once you put it in, you try to see, does this system bring about efficiency? If it doesn't, why? Why has it failed to bring it? And by the way, saying that if it has failed to bring efficiency doesn't mean you failed your research. No. And that's a nice thing about research. Even a negative result is a result, and you absolutely get your 100% tick because you've objectively answered something that was unknown. Why conduct research? Yeah, why conduct research? First and most important, it's for academic purposes. That's why we're doing this module, for academic purposes. So research is what brings the academic element at university level. So this makes the difference, a whole world of difference between a university and just any other institute of higher learning. The fact that you have research, that research element. At master's level, if someone doesn't do a dissertation, what they get is a postgraduate diploma. But once you're getting a master's degree, that dissertation must be there. The most important thing, of course, about research is to acquire new knowledge. Now, this knowledge, remember, is not for you, it's for a certain research community. Remember, I had earlier said that if I didn't know the number of students in my class, that's a personal problem. But if I was trying to find out if actually a system does improve efficiency, then I'm bringing some new knowledge. Yeah, I'm closing a certain knowledge gap. So, of course, in bringing that, finding that new knowledge, we are answering certain questions in the research community. Now, most of the time, our research comes in to solve practical world problems. Now, the article I'm going to share with you specifically comes from practical world problems, but they were not answering the practical world problems. It was focusing on, you know how they tell you, do not use your phone while you're driving or doing some important task. Let's say if I'm teaching and I'm on my phone checking my WhatsApp, I can't spend time to look at what I'm teaching and to explain it clearly. So one of the primary reasons they tell us, the scientists tell us not to use these gadgets, specifically smartphones, is that they've done research, that this particular article was doing research and was showing that there's what they call a hedonic experience, when you feel good about using something. For example, when you use WhatsApp, there's a certain feeling that you get because you've received a message, you've sent a message to somebody, or you're on any social media platform, that feeling. So it's not a good idea to use any of these smartphone applications while you're doing an important task like working or driving. So that particular article, of course, for it was focused on the IT side, but it was affirming a practical world problem, yeah, where the people said, do not text and drive. Another one of the final most important things about research is communication. You are communicating. So one of the things you will learn is communication, because you're going to write a book. And in that book, you're communicating something. You as an individual, you're communicating something to the research world. So another important thing, because it's your personal communication, it's an independent, you're forced to become an independent thinker. Your research is purely about you. It's not about your supervisor. It's about you. Something that you think it's coming directly from you as a person. It also helps in creativity and problem solving. Most of the questions we answer are what if questions in research. Yeah. So I gave you the earlier example of designing a system for a school or schools. And then you ask that, if I apply this, does it bring about efficiency? If I developed a system and implemented it, does it actually bring about the efficiency that is always hyped about? So the what if questions are what are normally answered. On the lower scale, research can improve people's well-being, especially groundbreaking research. For example, we all went through the COVID pandemic, and we all see what science has done. Yeah, we all see what science has done to open up the economy, that we can now go back to schools, we can now go back to normal social interactions, all because scientists went through that process of research to test and prove a hypothesis. So a hypothesis is an assumption that is placed forward and someone is there to prove or disprove. I gave you the other assumption. Most of the time we say if we implement systems, information systems, they bring about improved access, improved efficiency, and so on and so forth. Well, you can prove or disprove that by implementing a system and try to find out if it does actually answer that question. So the hypothesis normally would say that if you add A to B, you get C. Now, if you get D instead, it doesn't mean you failed your research. This is also a legitimate answer. That's the big difference between research and any other course unit you may have done. Any questions so far?
No, madam.
Continue?
Yes.
Okay. Let's just look at some characteristics. Okay. I don't think it would be fair for me to continue because the other previous class I stopped here. We had a lengthy discussion. So if I continue, I will have done a disservice to the others. So my suggestion is let us stop here. Then I will put up the reading assignment for all of you, as well as the enrollment key. Is that okay with everyone?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to go further because we are
Yes,
a class that is going at the same pace. So if I go beyond this slide, I will have done a disservice to the other group.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to put up this video. I'll also put up the reading assignment and also send you an enrollment key.
Okay. Thank you, madam.
Thank you too. Okay, I'm going to